Hey fellow gamers, what's up? I have now finished my playthrough for Guacamelee Gold Edition on the PC, so it's time for me to jump into one of these things we like to call our patented category reviews. Now, a couple administrative notes I need to get out of the way before we jump in. One, I did not finish the game completely. I got all the way to about the last temple and had enough. So I want to get that out of the way that your boy BC didn't finish this game, but I played enough of it to give you an idea of what you may expect when you play it. Like I've always said with our reviews, I'm not so much trying to make value judgments as I am trying to give you information that you can then use to decide whether or not you want to play a particular game. So if you're not familiar with Guacamelee, just know that it's a 2D platformer adventure game that relies on melee for its combat system and kind of peppers in a little bit of Metroid-esque exploration and finding of skills and stats and things of that nature. And I say esque because it's very light on the Metroid part. I had actually heard several other people in the review world call this game a Metroidvania. I personally would not do that, and I think as we get into the categories here, you will begin to understand why. So let's jump in. Okay, first in the hole, we've got our Action Junkie category, and I believe you Action Junkies out there are probably going to split into two camps as it relates to Guacamelee. So those of you who are looking to reach back to that glory that was 2D Metroid because you heard some other reviewer say this is a Metroidvania game, be prepared to be disappointed. Guacamelee is more about ridiculous button-mashing, combo-based platforming, and less about exploration and discovery. And this describes my experience with the game and why I was not able to see it through to its end, but more on that later. On the other hand, gamers who love challenging platforming sequences that often take anywhere from 1 to 20 tries to master it to get it right will absolutely love playing Guacamelee. I'm not that dude, so I didn't love my time with this game. But on the other side, the combat in the game is actually quick, fluid, easy to master, and a lot of fun to play when it's not being, I won't call it cheap, but silly. There's some parts where it's just like, why would you make a player jump through these Tekken-esque hoops just to have a fight? All right, next up we have the bookworms category, and if you're a bookworm, you're probably going to split into two factions as well. Either you'll love the over-the-top culture-driven humor, like I did, that's the camp I fell into, or you'll find it a bit corny and choose to focus on the game's action. There were points in the story for me, though, where I actually laughed out loud at what the NPCs were saying and some of the things they were asking me to do, which make up the game's side quests. All right, you explorers out there are going to find a semi-open world where you can venture out, find some treasures that'll help you with stat building or getting money. And much like Metroid, these treasures are hidden behind obstacles that require you to obtain certain melee skills to overcome. Unfortunately for me, I felt there was not enough of this type of exploration and play in the game to satisfy my appetite and what I love in a Metroid game. And further, some of the frustrating platforming actually discouraged me from wanting to venture out to find some of that hidden treasure just because I didn't want to have to do a Tekken combo to get to it. Okay, so strategic combat in Guacamelee is very primitive. It basically boils down to you surviving rooms with multiple enemies that are attacking you all at once, and some of these enemies will have weaknesses that are communicated through colored shields that represent the special move you're supposed to pull off to break their shields before you can kill them. So strategists, don't go into this game expecting too much. Alright, so tourists who like their game short and sweet will find an experience that shouldn't take more than about 5 hours to complete. Just keep in mind that if you like more casual games, you may be put off by some of the more challenging platforming sequences. Alright, audiophiles and visualists, real simple. The soundtrack in Guacamelee is awesome. Like the story, it was probably my most favorite part of the game. And the visuals ain't too shabby either. For you builders out there, much like the strategist category, you're not going to find Guacamelee to be all that awesome. You're going to find it probably lacking in the character development category. In essence, you receive money for defeating enemies and by finding treasure. You can use this money to purchase moves, health, and stamina upgrades, and it's a very basic system, so those who enjoy deep leveling systems need not apply. Alright, you achievers out there, I play Guacamelee on Steam, and I'm happy to report that as a recovering achievement hoe, there are quite a few achievements that were fun to unlock. All right, so bottom line, should you go out and purchase Guacamelee? Well, that really depends on how you like your games. If you love platformers, especially ones that require time button mashing combos to be successful, then I think you couldn't find a better game to suit your needs. However, if you are like me and prefer the exploration and combat of a 2D Metroid and don't have the patience for ridiculous platforming sequences, then don't bother. And that's going to wrap it up, folks. Thank you for joining us on this review for Guacamelee. I hope you found it informative, if nothing else. Again, I wasn't a big fan of the game. I think I pretty much conveyed that in the review. But like I said, I try not to make too much of a value judgment, like coming out and saying this game's great or this game sucks, unless the game is really an extreme in that way. I think that Guacamelee has a lot of merit for people out there who like challenging platformers. But if you're a Metroid fan, which, as I've said probably 100 times on this channel, Metroid is my favorite game of all time. If you go into it thinking you're going to get that experience, be prepared to be disappointed. Until next time, folks, this is BC signing off from A7 Video. Allow me to tell all of you peace and Godspeed.